Welcome back to the shop, everybody. Today I'm working on the body of this guitar strap. Nice big floral pattern, and I figured that while I'm at it, I might take the opportunity to talk about something that's been on my mind. Um, I don't know if you've noticed. Probably not. If you don't have a fireplace, or you're not regularly having to light a fire, cook fire, something along those lines, you probably haven't. But you cannot get the Strike Anywhere match anywhere anymore. You can't buy it. And this might seem like a very kind of innocuous and small thing, but it's something that I care about. I've got two boxes of Strike Anywhere matches that I had bought back in 2020. I was living, as I do now, in a cabin with a wood stove, and I always like having a box of matches handy. Lighters have a habit of, getting picked up and walked away with, and you end up with 20 or 30 of them in the glove box of your car or your friend's pockets or some other inconvenient place when you need them. But big box of matches is a little more stable. It's not going to get walked away with quite so often. And for years, whenever I needed to pick up a box of matches, every time I was in Canadian Tire, I'd pick up the old Redbird box of Strike Anywhere matches, just because it was convenient. I remember them always being around when I was growing up, and I remember a lot of good memories on camping trips that I'll get into a little bit later. But that white phosphorus tip, you just could run along the side of the stove, and you'd got a strike, spark right at the tip of your fingers. But in 2020, the shipping regulations changed, and they're classified now as hazardous goods, which is basically means that the cost to transport them to a store, to get them to the consumer is so high for the manufacturers that they're in the negative for every single box of matches that they would sell at a retail store like Canadian Tire. That leaves us in a position where basically, like, you can't get them anymore. I don't know if they're still being made. Maybe they are in Mexico or South America, some other countries that don't have the same kind of shipping requirements that North America does. But that isn't really convenient for me. So I'm left with basically the last two boxes of Strike Anywhere matches that the last ones that I bought. I've got two boxes of 250 matches, and that might seem like a lot, but when you're lighting a fire every single day, and having campfires, cigarettes, the occasional cigar, that sort of thing, it's going to disappear very quickly. And I kind of have this maybe a little bit of an outsized kind of reverence for these two boxes of Strike Anywhere matches, simply because I'm a bit of a sentimental person, and I put a lot of stock into keeping track of things that you can't just get at the store anymore. Most of my wardrobe is secondhand, and I put a lot of weight into discontinued, types of clothing, heavy Melton or Kiersey wool, that sort of thing. Vintage. I've got a good number of jeans that are still got their Made in Canada tag. You can't find that in a store anymore. You just have to stumble across it secondhand or get a hand-me-down from a relative. But back to my main point. The sudden death of the Strike Anywhere match is something that I seem to care about, but not everyone that I talk to seems to really, appreciate. And I think that it's a symbol, for me, strangely, of a certain kind of disappearing lifestyle. You can see that I'm getting into the hammering here. Doing all the beveling work on this guitar strap. Definitely the most time-consuming, probably the most labor-intensive part of the process. But God, when it's done right, it looks good. Anyway, it's the strike anywhere match is a real kind of symbol, in a lot of ways of a bygone era. You think of like old westerns, Clint Eastwood lighting his big ugly cheroot in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly with a match he ran across a door jamb or the leg of his jeans. It's a symbol. Um, and for me, it's definitely a symbol that reminded me a lot of when I was really young, and I was very involved and interested in being outside. And I remember, little projects with my grandpa where we'd get a box of Strike Anywhere matches, and we'd take them home, and we would do this waterproofing technique so that you can keep them handy while you're out in the woods. Um, and that involves basically getting a double boiler set up on the stove to melt paraffin or beeswax, and you take each individual match and you would stick the head, the red and the white part that lights the match into this vat of liquid wax to seal it off, to waterproof it, and it was basically just you know this old school woodsman's trick that I got to inherit from my grandpa. One of the many kind of, tips and tricks that, he was a trapper. He was a logger in northern Ontario for most of his life before he moved down south and became a carpenter full time. So he had a lot of these, old school tricks that really aren't, they might get popularized on like survival blogs, but no one's really doing it anymore. So there's that. I always had, a box of those waterproof Strike Anywhere matches on me anytime I went on like a little camping trip or went on to my little forays in the back 40 and, built a little brush shelter and get a fire going and, pretend that I was, trapped out in the woods and had to survive with nothing but my own wits. And there's a lot of times where I would do the one match fire. I'd work very hard to pretend I was down to my last strike, and that was always with Strike Anywhere matches. I remember being on canoe trips that I was guiding for a summer camp when I was in my late teens, and I got to live that out. It was this one evening where we were stuck out in a completely unseasonable rain and hailstorm in a lake in not really northern, but north of north of Highway 7, near Madoc, Ontario, and sorry, not Madoc, Bancroft, that's where we were. But we were on one of those lakes, and it was a small, 2-day sort of deal, just in and out, get the kids acclimatized to the woods. But when we were paddling over, we got hit by a completely unseasonable, freezing cold thunderstorm. Like, there was sleet, there was rain, just pure chop, and we were stranded out on this little granite peninsula in, Shield country. And after it all abated, and I had, about, I'd say 10 kids, probably no older than 12, 13, all of them, all of their gear soaked, because, they didn't have dry bags for everyone. That was for, the important stuff. I didn't have a dry bag either, because I definitely wasn't expecting it. I didn't bring it along, quite stupidly. We just had our Pelican case with fire starting supplies, and I remember just seeing all these freezing cold kids, and the water was too rough for us to paddle back to camp. So even though the rain had abated, the storm hadn't gone away, and we had this little brush pile that we were very desperately trying to get lit, so everyone could start drying off and warm up. And I remembered, all those little experiments that I would do out in the woods behind my family's place. And I got the fire built up, small tinder, and we had a little bit of wax paper, I think, that we used. And, the fire starting kit we brought was really, pitiful. It was not great. One of those big barbecue lighters. And that thing, it got soaking wet and stopped working because it's an electric spark, and something must have shorted out in it. But what we did have was my little match safe, and I did my best to get a fire started, and it was a process. I burned through 3 or 4 matches trying to get that, that tinder that was just absolutely soaked going, and it would get a little flame, and it would sputter, and then it would go out, and we'd reconfigure, and the wood would dry out a little bit, and we'd rebuild it, get the smaller stuff, the stuff that's dry, look under the undergrowth, under where we pitched the tent, all this other sort of, just really getting the kids to work hard, keep them moving, looking for brush to pile up, because I was very worried that if they stopped, they would, they'd be out in that cold wind on this little granite and little granite peninsula with a couple pine trees over us, just freezing. So we kept trying, and I burned through about 20 matches trying to get this thing started, and we're literally down to the last match. This little waterproof strike anywhere match that I had made, and I bust off the wax cap, and got this very precise, tight-packed little bundle of fire starter that we've assembled, and all these kids are gathered around, all the other counselors, because they're outdoorsmen, but I had kind of assumed a spot of responsibility because I felt that I had the most experience doing this, whether I did or not. On our last match, we had gone through enough iterations with all of the wasted ones before, and all of the previous attempts, that we had that figured out. And this last match struck, big sulfurous plume rises up from it, and everyone's holding their breath as I just tuck it under the tinder, and it finally lights. And all these kids just, like Lord of the Flies, like they got their shirts off because all their shirts are just soaking wet, and they didn't want to be, in their cotton clothes, getting even colder. So they're dancing around, waving their wet shirts around, and around this fire that I just started. And it's a real special feeling. Not one that I encourage you to seek out. Always come more prepared. But that was about as close to a real survival situation as I've ever gotten. And fortunately, I don't want you to think that, we were negligent. We were in radio contact with the main camp the entire time. The administrators were just on the far side of the lake. And a speedboat, a motorboat ended up coming to pick up all the kids and take them home, where they were nice and warm in a heated cabin. So it was less consequential than my telling might have indicated. But for for the half hour that it took for us to coordinate that effort to get the boat out there and wait for the chop to subside, it was feeling like a real survival situation, and thanks to my little collection of Strike Anywhere matches, I was able to get a fire going. So that felt very vindicating for younger me. I would have been thrilled to have that experience. Not that it was thrilling at the time, but it's fun in hindsight. And it's stories like that. It's like every canoe trip that I've been on before and after. I've always had this little safe of Strike Anywhere matches. Waterproofed the way that my grandpa had taught me. So even though they wouldn't get used, a Bic lighter is just infinitely easier, less thought. Doesn't matter if it gets wet, rained on. It's always around. You can pack 3 of them and just keep them in every single backpack you have. But at the same time, there's a certain level of, I guess, nostalgia for the Strike Anywhere match that. With all the experience that I got to have with it, it's just sad to see it go. It's still just one of those things where I feel like, obviously, having a lighter is it's convenient. I've got a Zippo that hardly gets used because whenever I'm around or going outside, it's like. It's so much more effort to keep that thing fed and fueled up, and they'll spill their gas all over you if you overfill them and then stick it in your pocket. I've gotten like a fucking very light chemical burn on my leg before from an overfilled Zippo when I first got it. So yeah, I just end up taking those disposable Bic lighters with me everywhere, and they're great, they're convenient, they work, but it's more plastic. It's a use it and throw it away type thing, and matches are like that too as well. But you're not ended up with a million Bic lighters shells just decorating beaches in Maui or Thailand or Cambodia. They use it up and you throw it away. And I've been on a lot of campsites where there's just half melted lighters left in the ashes of fire or scattered around, and it's a bummer when you're out in the woods and you just come across a pile of refuse. People too lazy to pack it out or too drunk to remember that they tossed it. And yeah, I've just got this feeling that it's emblematic of this whole kind of march to a more convenient, more disposable product that is safer and in a lot of ways better, but it has added costs, and there's just a certain romance to strike anywhere matches. You see them in a lot of Western media, like I was saying. Red Dead Redemption 2, Micah Bell's always got a couple tucked into the brim of his hat, and that's something that, I I remember seeing that and thinking, fuck, that would be cool. I am a pyro. I like burning things. That'd be fun to kick around, and, I'm tired of lugging around this Zippo that leaks and doesn't strike half the time. But yeah, I feel a bit too protective of the Strike Anywhere matches that I still have to really, commit to keeping them in the band of my hat when I go out. Your hat's supposed to keep the rain off your back and sun out of your eyes, and I got a feeling that something as chemically delicate as a Strike Anywhere match is probably going to degrade pretty quickly when you're out in the elements, if you're not using them to light up your pipe or your cigarettes like they do in Red Dead all the time. So I'm probably not going to do that, but I got enough shit tucked into my hat band as is. But it's one of those things where, yeah, I always, Sergio Leone westerns. You got the man standing in the doorway, Lee Van Cleef, kind of lighting up his smoke. Just the shadows playing across his face as it flares to life, and strikes it against the door frame or the stubble on the side of his chin, and yeah, it just makes me kind of sad to see it disappear. So I think that probably said enough in this regard. You can see my project is on its way to wrapping up. Quite happy with how this has come out. Wasn't too sure about some of the more the vine work elements here, but I'm quite happy with how everything came out in the tooling. And I think that whoever ends up getting this guitar strap, because this is going to be donated for a raffle for a local organization, is going to be very happy with it. And yeah, thanks for listening to me ramble about Strike Anywhere matches, and all my old man nostalgia, old before my time, thinking about all the things that my grandparents used to talk about, and all the little tips and tricks that I still use, but there's just one more that I can't really do anymore. Yeah, I think that a lot of the things that I do, leatherworking and all the hobbies that I have are very much a connection to older times. So it makes me sad when I see something that is a very small, subtle kind of connection to those times, and that whole kind of lifestyle that I work to emulate is disappearing. So yeah, that's my eulogy for the Strike Anywhere match, and thank you very much for your time. Check out my leatherwork. It's not available for sale online, but if you are interested, I'm available for commissions, and please contact me at JBW-Leather on Instagram. My DMs are open, and I'd love to hear your ideas. I'm not an expert by any means in this craft. There's still so much for me to learn, but it's been a wonderful process, and I thoroughly enjoy seeing the end product of everything I work on. So yeah, if you got an idea or you like my work, please let me know, and thank you for your time.